So yesterday, the Packers had a beautiful game-ending field goal as time expired by Brandon McManus, who came in earlier this week, putting the Packers up 24-22. And there were so many positive things to take away from last night or yesterday's game, which I broke down right after the game. But now I want to listen to what Colin Cowherd has to say. What are his thoughts on this Texans-Packers game? And so here it was. Last night he spoke with John Middlecoff on the Colin Cowherd podcast. Here's what Colin Cowherd had to say.
Okay, Green Bay beats Houston 24-22. And here's why this game is important. I feel like they played each other. Green Bay is the Houston of the NFC. Houston is the Green Bay of the AFC. I think both are a year away. I love their rosters. I love their young coaches, and I love their quarterbacks. Jordan Love's better than C.J. Stroud, in my opinion. Moves
He's right about that one.
better. Jordan's got some real Favre. He's going to have bad picks, but he can really let it rip. I really like watching him play. But I feel like I watched the same team, is that they're close, right coach, right quarterback, right O-line.
The Texans definitely, I do not think they have the right O-line. The Packers destroyed them yesterday, but the Packers definitely have a good O-line.
Nice weapons. Not quite mature enough. There's somebody in the way. Detroit.
I don't know. We'll see soon. I don't know, though.
There's somebody in the way. Kansas City. But there was an interesting moment in this game where late Houston, DeMeco Ryans settled for a field goal. And they didn't force Green Bay to burn timeouts. And I thought, well, DeMeco's a defensive coach. You got to bake that in. These guys aren't going to go for it. But as I watched this game, I thought, these guys are not good enough to hoist a trophy. But if you told me over the next 4 years, because the quarterbacks, I think, potentially with the right weapons are in that Jared Goff or slightly above that
I say way above Goff. Maybe I'm biased.
class. Green Bay's now 5-2, Houston 5-2. I felt like I'm watching two great franchises. After this year, they'll both be in the Super Bowl bubble for about 6 straight years.
Okay. I think that the Packers are ready right now. I really do. I don't think they're a year away. The Texans, maybe. I still think they're a very good team. C.J. Stroud's a top 10 quarterback, which is even more impressive that the Packers were able to completely shut him down to less than 100 passing yards. Props to Jeff Hafley and the Packers defense. But after 7 weeks, seeing this team offensively, defensively, and now with our veteran kicker, which is great to see, I think the Packers are ready right now. I don't think they're a year away. I think last year they were potentially a year away. The Packers got to the playoffs. It felt like, wow, we didn't expect this to happen. In Jordan Love's first year starting, you're sort of like, okay, if we can be good enough, if Jordan Love can show promise, it's a successful season. They make the playoffs, and it's like, whoa, I can't believe it. Destroy the Cowboys, and then lose to the Niners in that game. But I think the Packers are ready right now. And the big reason, after watching the past 2 weeks, that I think they're fully ready right now, the confidence I have has gone up a ton, is the Packers defense has been legit the past few weeks. They shut down the Cardinals for the most part. And then in this game against the Texans, the Packers defense played out of their mind. The fact that the Packers had 3 turnovers, they didn't force a turnover on defense, but the fact that the Packers still won this game is largely due to the Packers defense really holding C.J. Stroud and the Texans offense outside of Joe Mixon, really holding them in check. And there were a few drives where the Texans got the ball inside the Packers, red zone. And the Packers, one of the times, did a good job, stopping them. Most of the Texans' points came off of turnovers. But when Jeff Hafley got signed here, the hope was, okay, can this defense become elite? And I honestly think we're starting to see this Packers defense get into the spot where you're like, okay, they have a chance to be elite. I truly believe that. We saw it in the first, 5 weeks, 6 weeks, forcing a ton of turnovers. And it was like, okay, but what happens if you don't have a game where you don't force turnovers? That was where I was a little bit concerned, because for those first 4 or 5 weeks, they're, looking at the stats, they weren't great in a lot of, statistical areas like points scored, yards allowed. It was sort of middle of the road average. It has gone up before this past game. But in this one where the defense had to play well because of 2 Jordan Love interceptions, because of a punt that hits off Corey Ballantyne's leg where the Texans get the ball like basically at the 1 yard line. That because of that, the Packers defense came in here without any turnovers and played at an insane level. And I mean, CJ Stroud, the talk before, there was a debate. I showed it here on my channel if you guys watched that video between Stephen A. Smith and Dan Orlovsky, where they were debating, who's a better quarterback, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love in this game. Orlovsky said Love. Stephen A. Smith said CJ Stroud. But I mean, you look at these stats. Look at these stats and tell me that Jordan Love is not better than CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud, 10 of 21, 86 yards, a 58.8 passer rating. Now, I will give it to Stroud. His offensive line is atrocious. It's so bad. Coming into the game, they were 25th in pressure percentage allowed, 6th most sacks allowed, and the Packers defensive line feasted all day long. Rashawn Gary, I'd say, probably had one of the best days of this season. PFF has him at 6 pressures, which coming into the game, he was at maybe I think 8 or 9 pressures. So he had one of the best games this season, which is great because he's been pretty quiet most of the year, but it was a big day for him. Big day for Eric Wilson, 3 pressures. Big day for Kingsley Enagbare, three pressures. And so the Packers pass rush was feasting, but Jordan Love outplayed CJ Stroud in this one by a wide margin. And I think that we have to give a ton of credit to Jeff Hafley because he's scheming up some stuff that's confusing guys like CJ Stroud. And as I was watching the game, I was remembering that CJ Stroud, the Texans put up 7 points against the Vikings Brian Flores defense, and that defense is predicated on confusing quarterbacks and putting them in situations where they don't know what's happening. And as I was watching that Packers game, I was like, it feels like the Packers are sort of confusing CJ Stroud. There are some plays where you got Preston Smith dropping back in coverage. Hafley was doing a ton to disguise things and, bringing Xavier McKinney off the edge for a blitz, for a sack. And it really feels like this defense is really starting to get into a spot where I think they have a chance to sort of ascend into elite level type defense. And there's a lot of factors here. A lot of it is Jeff Hafley, his play calling. A lot of it is Evan Williams playing great at safety. Xavier McKinney playing great at safety, and then the pass rush finally, making some plays. And so that's why I think this Packers team is ready right now. If this defense had, continued to struggle and had some problems, then I would be a little bit more concerned. I still think they would have a chance because when you have Jordan Love who can, push the ball down the field at will, yes, he has struggled with interceptions, but still, I thought the Packers, even without an elite defense, could make a run in the playoffs. But now with a defense that can reach that level, they're starting to look like it, especially in second halves, which I'll share this real quick. The past 4 games, second half points allowed. Texans 3, Cardinals 3, Rams 6, Vikings 3. And those are some talented offenses. The Vikings have a good offense. The Rams, they have a lot of injuries. The Cardinals have a good offense. And the Texans, so this Packers defense is really shaping up. And one other thing to note about this Packers team, it's like if one side of the ball has a game where it's a little bit shaky, and for the Packers, they had some nice touchdown drives, but there was also a lot of shaky play in there with Jordan Love's 2 interceptions. With in the second half, after they scored a touchdown, the Packers offense, struggled for a few different drives after they had the touchdown and went punt, and then field goal to win the game. And so the offense in the second half wasn't great. And I think that this team balances each other out nicely because in games where the defense may give up a lot of points, Jordan Love can bring them back. In games where Jordan Love is throwing some picks, the Packers defense has been holding up. And so I just really like the overall makeup of this team right now, and the defense is really starting to excite me for what can happen going forward, even against top-tier caliber quarterbacks like CJ Stroud. And, with Jordan Love, it's sort of funny looking at his stat line because he really has been inconsistent when it comes to his interceptions. And I saw a meme, you guys may have seen it, where it's like, it was Jordan Love, and on one shoulder he had Aaron Rodgers, talking to him. On the other shoulder he had Brett Favre talking to him. And that's really what it feels like, just because he makes insane throws, but he definitely does not keep the ball out of harm's way like Rodgers did early in his career. This season, Rodgers only has 1 less interception than Jordan Love currently. Of course, Love does have a couple less games. And so it just feels like this may be the type of quarterback Jordan Love is, where he's a high-risk, high-reward quarterback. Sometimes it's awesome. Sometimes you're like, okay, what were you thinking right there? And I just don't, he's not going to be Aaron Rodgers. I think we're starting to see that. And is he going to fix this interception issue? I don't know. The thing that mattered in this game is that at the end, when the Packers needed a game-winning drive, Jordan Love drove them down the field and put them in a field goal range. Yes, the first play where that ball was almost picked, that was a close one. But Love did put the Packers in a position to win the game, which even though he threw 2 picks in that game, is important to note because there's going to be a lot of big-time games like this where the Packers need Love to do that, and he did it. And so going forward, I'm very, very confident that this Packers team can beat anyone. They really can. We even saw it last year with them beating the Chiefs and the Lions. They can beat any team, and that's why I'm confident in them pretty much going in every single game because of, especially now, what this Packers defense is starting to do. So I disagree with Colin that the Packers are a year away. I think they're ready right now, to be honest, and I think that they're going to be a team that competes at the highest level, just like we got to experience with Rodgers, just like we got to experience with Favre for a long time, that this team is going to be one of the better teams in the NFL for a long time, and every single season, I believe playoff time, the Packers are going to be a team where it's like, okay, they have a chance to go all the way because of their quarterback, and now because of what this defense can do. So it's still early in the season, but right now, 5-2, the Packers are in a very perfect spot. If you guys want more Packers content, feel free to subscribe down below. If you want to check out other NFL content, you can subscribe to my second channel. You can search Luke Beller on YouTube to find that. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.